Kia ora and welcome to our Sunday recap of an excellent Saturday for the Warriors. They had a big win over the Broncos at Suncorp Stadium, pretty common these days, and they also had two wins against the Sea Eagles in Sydney. New South Wales Cup had an 18-12 victory, and the Jersey Flegg under-21s had a 26-24 win over the Sea Eagles. But there was also a Rabbitohs women's win in the New South Wales Women's Premiership that did feature three Warriors players, I think. Ocean Tierney scored a try on the wing. There was also Matakino Gray returned to footy, and she scored a try coming off the bench for the Rabbitohs, and Natalia Hickling came off the bench as well. So I think there have been four Warriors women who have played for the Rabbitohs so far this season, and they've all, I think Gray's scored a try, Tierney's got a couple of tries, and Asha Taumoepeau-Williams also scored a try in her first game playing for the Rabbitohs in the reserve grade competition in New South Wales. So the NRLW Warriors are playing this afternoon against the Tigers. Tigers are a pretty good team this season, so we'll wait and see how that game goes. But there is that development wrinkle with the Warriors affiliated to Rabbitohs in the New South Wales Women's Premiership, and there's a lot of crossover there. I think I've seen the Warriors women training at the Rabbitohs training base, and the Rabbitohs have also sent some staff and players over to Mount Smart. So there's good collaboration in the women's pipeline. But let's start with the Warriors' second win against the Broncos this year. Not only that, second win at Suncorp Stadium against the Broncos. Not only that, second win at Suncorp Stadium against the Broncos, scoring over 40 points. And we always hear people say, oh, the Broncos are such a big club. Broncos are the biggest club in Australian sport, and all this stuff about the size and power of the Broncos. But if they lose to the Warriors and the Warriors crowds overwhelm Suncorp Stadium, like those Warriors versus Broncos games are almost home games for the Warriors, with how amazing the Aussie Warriors supporters are, let alone what we've seen with the Titans and a bit of the Dolphins as well at Suncorp Stadium. If the Warriors are doing that to the Broncos, where does that put the Warriors in terms of powerhouse organizations in the NRL and in Australasian Oceanic sport? Because if the Broncos are viewed as the most powerful, the biggest sports franchise, will the Warriors overwhelm them at their own home ground? And we know, like, I'm biased, so I'm going to say that the Warriors are one of the most powerful organizations in Australasian sport right now. And we're kind of seeing that we are seeing that on the field with the scorelines, but we're also seeing it in the crowd, with how vibrant, energetic the Warriors fans are. And I think we're going to see it more prominently in terms of business and the business deals that the Warriors are making compared to other NRL franchises, because like some of those Sydney franchises, they're dealing with local sponsors, local New South Wales sponsors, Sydney companies, brands that are based in Sydney or Queensland. The Warriors are dealing with national organizations in terms of who their sponsors are and how they support the Warriors in terms of business. So I think the brand power of the Warriors is among the biggest and brightest in the NRL, and I'm going to be biased and say it is they are one of the most powerful organizations, which does include what they're doing in terms of the women's set up as well. So yes, it was another big win for the Warriors at at Suncorp Stadium against the Broncos. It was another tricky game for the Warriors to work through, because we did have Another injury to Luke Metcalf, which is a bummer for him. Not necessarily shocking, because Luke Metcalf does get injured quite often, and they do seem to be similar injuries in terms of knees and hamstrings. I'm not sure of the intricacies of this hamstring injury, how it matches up with other hamstring injuries. Who cares about all of that? But we just need to know Luke Metcalf, he's kind of getting injured a bit, to say the least. I'm trying to be respectful here. He peaked with 15 games last season before a season-ending injury. The Shark seasons, he was just kind of filling in, didn't really play a lot. Then he moved to the Warriors, 12 games 2023, 7 games in 2024, and 15 games followed by 4 games this season. He is credited with the win, and the Warriors were playing well with Luke Metcalf on the field. He played 20 minutes. They scored 3 tries in those first 20 minutes, and there was nothing negative to say about what Luke Metcalf was doing. He was playing pretty well, as he has been in these 2 games at halfback after the 2 losses in the number 6 jersey. We'll just try to stay present in what we're working through right now, because it gets a bit tricky trying to forecast what Andrew Webster's going to do in the halves and all that type of stuff, as Webster says, as Fisher Harris says, one game at a time, one day at a time. Let's be present in what we're dealing with now. But the most important thing here was, it was another game in which the Warriors had to adapt to the situation they faced, and that was Luke Metcalf leaving the field. There was also the nickel clock star sin bin, which shook things up a wee bit, and mid-game we had Tane Tuapiki coming on at fullback, nickel clock star moving into the number 6 position, with Harris-Tavita taking a dominant halves role, which means, like, it's hard to say that Harris-Tavita was playing as the halfback, because he didn't actually start the game at halfback, but he was the leading half, and that's the job usually that the halfback does. So I think we've had 4 different halfbacks for the Warriors this year contribute to winning footy. Like, the Warriors were winning when Luke Metcalf got injured, so it's not like Harris-Tavita had a dominant hand in a win at halfback. He was doing his stuff in number 6 before Metcalf left the field. But we do have 4 different players, Luke Metcalf, Harris-Tavita, Tamaita Martin, and Tana Boyd, contributing to winning footy as halfbacks, which is fantastic depth, but it's also a fantastic sign. And the other thing is, we saw Tana Boyd, must have been the Suncorp curse, because he got injured earlier in the season, and the Warriors won that game as well, with Tamaita Martin coming off the bench to plug the hole at halfback. So both these games where 2 halfbacks who were playing pretty well, like Tana Boyd was one of the best halfbacks in the competition at the time of his injury. Luke Metcalf had an excellent game against the Panthers and started this game pretty well. In both those cases, 2 good halfbacks got injured mid-game, and the Warriors went on to score big points. I imagine Tana Boyd got injured in the Broncos game earlier in the season. Let me double check this. I don't want to go too far down this. Yes, Tana Boyd, 6 minutes against the Broncos. The Warriors went on to win 42-12. Luke Metcalf, 20 minutes against the Broncos. Warriors go on to win 42-6. That is one indicator of what the Warriors' culture and, like, everything they're about, their identity, is evident in how they have responded to the chaos of their half situation, whether it was the Metcalf drama earlier in the season, whether it was Tana Boyd getting injured. How do you replace that? Players, different guys stepping into different halves roles, and even just this snapshot against the Broncos where the halfback gets injured in the first quarter of the game, and the Warriors go on to score 40 points in those games at Suncorp Stadium against the Broncos. Though that's a fantastic indicator of this team, and it's also present in how the Warriors responded to that Bulldogs loss. They lost 18-6 against the Bulldogs. We talked about that at the time. You can go check in to see the vibe after the Bulldogs loss. Then they won 42-6 against the Titans, 28-12 against the Panthers, 40-6 against the Broncos. They put up 40 plus points against two weaker teams, and they overpowered the Panthers 28-12. So in all three of these games since losing to the Bulldogs, the Warriors have scored over 25 points and conceded less than 15 points, which is aligned with their points conceded, points scored this season per game. They're averaging 28.8 points scored per game, almost 30, which is excellent, and they're conceding on average 15.7 points per game, which again, the Titans scored 1 try, 6 points. Penrith Panthers, one of the best teams in the NRL, scored 2 tries, 12 points. The Broncos, 6 points. So there is not only the way the Warriors responded to the Bulldogs loss is informative about who they are, how they play their footy, and being able to learn and grow from losses and adversity, being able to adapt with different players and different positions. But the common theme throughout all four, it wasn't common in the Bulldogs game because the Warriors were monstered by the Bulldogs. But since then, we have seen the Warriors overpower not just the Panthers, but also the Titans and Broncos, obviously, as well, and just dominate them physically. And that is the most important aspect of Warriors Rugby League right now, heading into finals, the back end of the season. The Warriors are brutal. The Warriors are all aligned with their plans and their system. They're aggressive, they're mobile, and this is the Warriors' identity, and it's winning games of rugby league. Because I broke down their completion rates as well, it's 74% against the Tigers, 86% against the Dragons, then they dropped down to 71% against the Bulldogs, over 80% in all three of these wins, 3 wins in a row. Even when they weren't playing as well against the Tigers, I thought they were pretty solid against the Dragons. In their last 5 wins, since losing to the Dolphins, which was an epic game in itself, so I had no real issues with their physicality, attitude, intensity there. Go back one more game, the Cowboys, they dominated them in Christchurch, and then we had that mid-season bonanza, 2 losses, which is an interesting bonanza, but the Panthers and Sharks games, the intensity, the attitude, the effort were peaking at very high levels in those games, and that has been a common factor all season. And we've seen so many different players contribute to that, as you've got different halves contributing to winning footy this season, but we've also got so many different players contributing to the physicality, the attitude, the effort, the intensity, which is obviously a major foundation, a fundamental aspect of Warriors Rugby League this season. And in a weird way, it's kind of summed up by Chanel Harris-Tavita, who was pretty damn good coming up against this Broncos team. But Chanel Harris-Tavita, he has had to adapt to 3 different halfbacks this season. Tana Boyd, Tamaira Martin, Luke Metcalf. When Luke Metcalf played number 6, it was Harris-Tavita who was the unfortunate bugger who missed out in those 2 games. And Harris-Tavita, I don't know if he's if he's got a strength to his game that is by far better than other things he does. And a better way of saying it is like, I don't know if he does something 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10, but he does everything at like a 7 or an 8 out of 10. He's not very fast, but he's got a solid running game. His tackling, his defense is good. His kicking game is good. His passing game is good. But more importantly, his combinations with the players around him, considering there's been a few different left centres this season. We haven't had Kurt Capewell locked in at left edge forward all season. We've had Leka Halasema play edge forward. We've had Adam Pompey play centre. How many different wingers have been on that left edge of the field? Tuivasa-Sheck, Shans Nickel-Clockstar. Obviously, Tuivasa-Sheck may have played a little bit of left centre as well. That's all happened on the left side of the field. I feel like the right edge has been pretty solid, even though the halfback has changed a lot, and the halfback usually defends on that right side of the field. Like it's usually been Jacob Laban, Ali Leotawa, Dallin Watanese-Lesniak on the right side of the field. Left side of the field has changed a lot. And Harris-Tavita, not only does he have to adapt to the halfback he's playing with and how they... the system stays the same. We've talked a lot about that. The fullback, Taintua Piki Nickel-Clockstar, pops on the right side of the field. Harris-Tavita usually stays on the left side of the field. Halfback swings both sides of the ruck, but usually inside the fullback or Harris-Tavita in terms of which channel they get the ball in. So Harris-Tavita's role has stayed fairly similar, but there are little intricacies, little nuances to playing with different halfbacks throughout the season. They all do their halfback things slightly different. Harris-Tavita has done that. He has adapted. He has had different kicking meters, different receipts per game, different run meters, different tackles. Like that all changes week to week, regardless of who the halfback is, but also influenced by who the halfback is for some of those things. But then he's also got to defend alongside different combinations on that left edge, and also different attacking combinations, which is now settled with I like this left edge now with Harris-Tavita, Khan Pereira, Halasema, Kurt Capewell's locked in there as well. And I've been very impressed with Harris-Tavita, especially the last 2 seasons, because last season, lost in all the Luke Metcalf spotlight, Harris-Tavita had his best season of NRL footy, consistently playing number 6 and doing everything pretty well. I had a benchmark that I need to double check for you here, but last season he scored 8 tries, 18 try assists, and this season he's got 7 tries, 12 try assists. So he's over 10 try assists for 2 seasons in a row. The kicking meters was the other thing. His only seasons with 200 plus kicking meters last season, this season, and he's basically backed up last season with excellent performances in the number 6 jersey, but also adapting to the game situation as we saw against the Broncos. He scored less than 5 tries, playing a bunch of different roles in his 5 seasons prior to this season, and he had less than 200 kicking meters in each of those seasons, less than 10 try assists in each of those first 5 seasons, as he kind of figured out what his NRL duty was. But these last 2 seasons, being consistently in the halves, specifically number 6, he has basically backed up what he did last season, and that's very impressive. Like, again, he may not have he does have highlight moments, as we saw against the Broncos, but a left foot step action. But there's this thing I'm enjoying about the Warriors right now, and it's especially evident with the young forwards, but we're also seeing it at centre as they get more comfy, just the reliability of these young players, and in this case, the reliability of Harris-Tavita. Like, you know what you're going to get from Harris-Tavita every single game. He's going to be like physically imposing for a half. He's going to get the ball to where it needs to go. He's got a good left foot kicking game. It's all pretty basic, all pretty simple, but he does his job, and he does his job regardless of who's playing around him, which is very impressive for Chanel Harris-Tavita. And we had this funky thing where all 5 of the players who started in outside back positions, which is Nickel Clockstar, Watene Zalesniak, Leotawa, Halasima, Khan Pereira, they all scored a try, which is good rugby league. There were also 5 other players who had a try assist. Leotawa had a try and a try assist. Both starting halves had a try assist. Wade Egan had a try assist. And then the replacement fullback, Taintua Piki, had a try assist as well. And Wade Egan, he is chasing 10 try assists this season. He's already got a career high 9 try assists though. So this is his best try assisting season in the NRL. It's also his best NRL season as far as win percentage goes. But he's on 9 try assists. It'll be fantastic for him to hit the imaginary marker of 10 try assists this season. And as I've talked about all last few weeks, especially the variety of try scorers and the variety of try assisters is very impressive for the Warriors. So, and we saw Wade Egan passing to Jacob Laban, which is an excellent pass from Wade Egan, but it also shows the subtlety of what Jacob Laban can do as a runner. Like, he's a big body, he can get the ball, he can run over people, but he's also got the skill and the awareness to be running between defenders and to run with the design of the pass. If the pass wants him to go hit the inside shoulder, he can do that. If the pass wants him to hit the outside shoulder, he can do that as well. And that's how he got his try against the Broncos, all of which is lovely. But there's also a thing where Jacob Laban has made the most tackles for the Warriors in 3 consecutive games. He had 42 tackles against the Broncos, and he was the only Warriors player who had more than Mitchell Barnett's 32 tackles. Laban had 42, next best was Barnett on 32. And Laban has also, last week against the Panthers, he made 46 tackles. He was the only player over 40 tackles. And against the Titans, he was 39 tackles. And the next best in that game was Eddie Iramia Toyava on 35 tackles. There's been, Laban loves to defend. And you can, if you watch the Fueling Youth Athletes episode on YouTube with Leka Halasima and Jacob Laban, which was pretty amazing to listen to. Halasima was chatting well. He was talking through his career. But Laban's on a different level as far as his maturity, how he speaks. And there was a couple of nuggets there, just him talking about tackling, tackle technique, the wrestle and the grapple and that type of stuff. All of which has been evident in these last 3 games where he has ripped in defensively. And this is the thing, not to diminish what the 3 starting middle forwards are doing. We know Fisher Harris, Barnett, Aaron Clark are awesome. I think they're probably the 3 best middle forwards in the NRL this season, given how they complement each other, given how they dominate the opposition and bully the opposition. And that's the thing about the Panthers dynasty. I think 4 in a row championships in the NRL. It was Moses Leota and Fisher Harris dominating the best props in the NRL. That was their standard. And that is the standard Fisher Harris, among many other things, has brought to the Warriors. And we're seeing that now with that starting trio, because they will dominate you in terms of your team's forward pack, your team's best middle forwards. Are they going to bully Fisher Harris? Are they going to bully Mitchell Barnett? Are they going to bully Aaron Clark? Is there another middle forward like Aaron Clark in the competition right now? Fast, powerful, good passer. And we've also seen Barnett settle back into his regular flow after the State of Origin period. That's what made the Bulldogs game so impressive for the Bulldogs is they did dominate those dudes. That's what made the response so impressive, because since then, there's been no signs of that after the Bulldogs game. So those three dudes, awesome as always. They're best in the league levels, but the youngsters continue to shine and continue to impress me. I just talked about Laban. He is now a reliable 80-minute edge forward. And you can throw up any young edge forward at me. You can throw up any semi-established mid-20s edge forward at me as well. I think Laban's probably better. And he's probably better than a lot of the players who are viewed favorably over in Australia. But Jacob Laban, he was a high potential, high pedigree player coming out of Wellington, moving to Auckland, playing first 15 rugby, playing rugby league. The Warriors invested in him very early on, along with Leotawa and some of these other juniors who went over to Redcliffe during the pandemic era. Now we're seeing why that happened with Laban. We're seeing Laban fulfill his potential in the NRL, and I can't see him moving from a starting edge forward position through this back end of the season. As we saw in this game, you do have Toiava on the bench who can cover edge forward. So Kurt Capewell didn't play 80 minutes against the Broncos. There could be a game where Laban doesn't play 80 minutes to finish the season. But unless there is a little rest and rotation for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes at the back end of games, I view Laban as an 80-minute edge forward, and he is playing at a very high level, to the point where I think he could be a World Cup squad member for the Kiwis. Unless he wants to play for Samoa, then he's probably going to be a World Cup squad member for Samoa. And it's boosted by the two forwards coming off the bench, Tanistella-Smith, Toiava. Big minutes once again. Tanistella-Smith has played over 35 minutes in his last 6 games. And he also has a tackle break in every game this season, which is just a minor indicator of the impact that he does offer the bench. He's fast, he's powerful, he rips in, and he is tough to handle if you don't get the bodies in front of him. And then we've got Toiava, who played 48 minutes against the Broncos. He has played over 40 minutes in 7 consecutive games. He's played over 30 minutes in all but 1 game this season. And I'm at the point now where maybe it was a bit unlucky against the Broncos because Metcalf did go off injured. So then Taintua-Piki stepped into the rotation. But Tanistella-Smith and Toiava have been getting game time ahead of Dimitri Vaimonga recently. Vaimonga was probably injured there. I can't remember too well. But the way these guys are playing, regardless of the bench rotation, it is Stella-Smith and Toiava getting game time ahead of Vaimonga right now. Because, if this was the start of the season or last season, it would have been Vaimonga playing ahead of Tanistella-Smith and maybe even definitely Toiava. That's been a minor tweak to the Warriors team over the last month or so, is that Tanistella-Smith and Toiava, they're playing big minutes, and they're playing more minutes than Vaimonga played in a lot of his games this season. He's only got 5 or 6 games playing over 40 minutes this season, whereas Toiava's usually staying over 40 minutes thanks to his versatility playing edge forward. And with Jackson Ford getting injured, it was who's going to churn out the minutes in the middle of the field? Well, Mitchell Barnett does a lot of that. Mitchell Barnett has played big minutes, especially returning to his starting role. I wrote it out here. After State of Origin, 56 minutes, 52, 41, 52, 60. Which is slightly higher than James Fisher-Harris, and Aaron Clark is slightly below those two as far as just the general minutes they're playing. But Jackson Ford, he was an 80-minute middle forward. How have the Warriors plugged that hole? Well, there's the least known forward in the Warriors team, Irioromea Toiava, is hovering around 45, 50 minutes per game, and Tanner Stowers-Smith is super consistent coming off the bench. Again, these are reliable players. I've kind of talked around the feeling of these type of players in the Warriors system. We've had the X Factor players many times for the Warriors, but we haven't necessarily had the workers and the volume players who get through the minutes, who do the work to allow the X Factor players to shine. I think a better way of describing all of that is that these guys are reliable. We have reliable young players at the Warriors right now. That's the beauty of this Warriors team, among many other beauties: the physicality, the intensity, the fun they have, their attacking ability with players, with the team scoring tries all across the park, the way the hooker gets try assists, the way both halves have try assists, the way Ali Leotawa's got tries and try assists. Leka Halasima now has tries, and not sure about his try assists, but he's a weapon at left centre, obviously. We've had games where both wingers are scoring tries, and this was another game there. These are things that have happened, like just good things that are happening for the Warriors, but I think underrated aspect of this Warriors season has been how the young forwards especially have shown, and it's a celebration of the Warriors development system that is producing young players who are reliable to play NRL every single week. Like these minutes for Stowers-Smith, Jacob Laban, Irioromea Toiava, these are like Irioromea Toiava and Tanner Stowers-Smith have not played every single game this season, but there are flashes of their consistency. As I said, Irioromea Toiava playing 40 plus minutes in 7 consecutive games. Tanner Stowers-Smith is churning through big minutes, and he's doing his job in 16 games this season. We've seen Jacob Laban build into an 80-minute edge forward position. Leotawa basically locked into that right centre position this season as well. These guys have worked their way up through the system, playing for a good New South Wales Cup setup. After a few years of, especially Leotawa Laban going over to Redcliffe, that wouldn't have been easy, but they did it. They benefited from it. And now this Warriors system is developing reliable young players who, whether it is nickel clock star Harris-Tavita, who's kind of getting into veteran experience territory, as well as the ruthless leaders in the forward pack and Kurt Capewell, these guys can rely on the young forwards as well. Like Fisher Harris and Mitchell Barnett, Aaron Clark, Kurt Capewell, they can rely on Tanner Stowers-Smith and Irioromea Toiava to do their job. Which is, I don't know if the praise for those players gets any better than that. Righto, let's jump into some deeper cuts for the Warriors this week. Jylan Lane scored 2 tries at centre for the Warriors in New South Wales Cup. My calculations is that he now has 12 tries in 11 games. This has been another development we've seen in the second half of the season. Jylan Lane slotting in at centre and just being a try-scoring wizard. This guy is crazy. He is also, he had 11 tackle breaks versus the Sea Eagles, and he is averaging 5.4 tackle breaks per game. He actually had 3 line breaks against the Sea Eagles as well. So of all the great stuff happening for the Warriors at the moment, this is one of actually a few things that have developed over the last few weeks. So I'll touch on them each, but Jylan Lane's progress at centre is one of the most impressive things happening below the radar at the Warriors that maybe a lot of other folks don't know about. But he has been phenomenal at centre for the Warriors in New South Wales Cup. We also had Joseph Ratcliffe playing his third game at fullback, second consecutive game, and he was pretty solid by the stats as well. 6 tackle breaks in this game, which means he's had 16 tackle breaks in his first 3 games of New South Wales Cup at fullback. And after 3 in his first game, he's had 7 and 6. So I've been very impressed with Joseph Ratcliffe stepping in at fullback. And Geronimo Doyle stayed in the squad as expected, with Mark Sikuvea playing as fullback in the under-21s team. So that is a little showcase of the fullback depth coming through the system, because Sikuvea has also played in the outside back positions, centre and wing for the Warriors. But they put him at fullback for this game against the under-21s. So I have been very impressed with Joseph Ratcliffe stepping into fullback for the New South Wales Cup team, having started this year in the under-19 SG Ball Cup Warriors team. So again, that's another development that has happened in recent weeks, boosting the fullback depth of the Warriors. And another thing along those lines is Riley Price joining the Warriors and winning every game he's played. He is now 5-0 for the Warriors in New South Wales Cup. And he played his 3rd consecutive game of 80 minutes as a starting prop against the Sea Eagles. So that's another development that has happened recently for the Warriors. If you're playing 80 minutes, you're going to churn out big numbers, 22 runs, 42 tackles. But Riley Price also loves an offload. He's got an offload in all 5 games. He had 1 offload versus the Sea Eagles. He had 2 offloads in each of, at least 2 offloads in his first 4 games with the Warriors, as well as try assists, line breaks, tackle breaks, offloads. Like, that's the type of stuff he was doing in Queensland Cup with Redcliffe. Maybe not with the 80 minutes though, and the winning, where he was part of a good Redcliffe team that was winning most of their games. But now he hasn't lost at the Warriors, because I think he played in that game against it was some game off the top of my head. I'm deep in the mangroves here, so I can't remember everything. It might have been that game against the Titans when Riley Price played. So he's won every game he's played with the Warriors this season. And I'd say those 3 things: Riley Price coming to the Warriors as a middle forward, Jai at centre, and Joseph Ratcliffe coming into fullback, working up through that system. Though they're 3 very interesting, very impressive developments for the Warriors that have happened over the last month, maybe 2 months for Jai. And it's the same with the NRL team. Said it a few times, like how quickly and weirdly things change. We've had so many different changes for the NRL team. We don't need to talk about them all, but we all know how much has fluctuated for the Warriors, let alone just that one game against the Broncos with Metcalf getting injured. And now we're looking at a different halves combination. Nickel Clockster moving to number 6. Now he's probably going to be suspended for the hip drop. So all that stuff changing and tweaking at the NRL level. But these things have happened at New South Wales Cup as well. And Jai didn't start the season. Joseph Ratcliffe didn't start the season. Riley Price didn't start the season for the Warriors in New South Wales Cup. Luke Lauliti's only here for a cup of coffee. He didn't start the season for the Warriors either. So some of these very impressive Warriors players in the New South Wales Cup team weren't even in the mix round 1. Riley Price wasn't even at the Warriors. Jai was still a mystery injured player, and Ratcliffe was playing under-19s. Some other hot pockets in the New South Wales Cup team. Tyson Hanson started at edge forward, which is, I think he has been playing a bit of edge forward coming off the bench. And Connor Bowden gave him a break at edge forward with Bowden on the bench. I think that might have been a direct substitute. Let's check the play-by-play here. Yes, Connor Bowden on for Tyson Hanson in the sub-rotations. So Connor Bowden's still getting a good opportunity at edge forward. But this was Tyson Hanson's first game as a starting player for the Warriors in New South Wales Cup. He came off the bench in his first 7 games. Now we got to start at edge forward. And he is still 18, 19 years old, and he's played 40 plus minutes in his last 6 games for the Warriors at the New South Wales Cup level. We've also had Jacob Auloa settling into a starting role as a middle forward, lock forward, small forward. And he is the most similar player to Aaron Clark at the Warriors right now. And he's churning out big minutes playing in that lock forward, small forward position. He played 53 minutes against the Sea Eagles, just doing his job. Not a huge runner of the footy, but he does his job there. But he's the distribution hub as far as passing the footy goes for the Warriors. And it seems like Maui Winitana Patalaseo played a bit of middle forward as well, because Makai Tafua played 80 minutes, and from the clips I saw, it did seem like Winitana Patalaseo was playing a little bit of middle forward there. So that's what he has been doing for the under-21s team. So that's very useful for the Warriors to have a player like him quietly rising up through the system as a good utility player who has played halves, hooker, middle forward for the Warriors, mainly in under-21s, but also a little bit in New South Wales Cup. The under-21s Warriors, we had, just in terms of team selection, Jiraiya Vagana Malatai. He played his first game on the wing for the Warriors under-21s team. I think I did see him in some preseason stuff, and he seems to be originally from Auckland, but he was playing Mal Meninga Cup for Ipswich before moving over to the Warriors. Probably some relation to the Vagana brothers, Joe and Nigel, so that may have been a connection to get him across to the Warriors. And it's like they play up the father-son stuff at the Warriors. Braylon Marsh, Riley Price, Hazen Mallars. But there are other whānau connections, as we saw the Whagana, Ali Leotawa, nephew of Ali Lauatiti, and those type of things. So it's not always father-son. There is other hearty whānau connections that the Warriors do make the most of as well. If you are worried about the big boppers coming through the Warriors system, which I don't know why I wouldn't be worried about a lack of big boppers, because I think winning NRL footy, there's no big boppers in the NRL team. Fisher Harris is big, but he's not a big bopper by my definition. Barnett, Clark, not necessarily big boppers. Jacob Laban's one of the biggest forwards in the NRL group, but he's an edge forward. And you do have someone like Cooper Page-Wilson, who's a bit bigger, but the combination of a Mosi Ravosai and Tepatasi Laumali'i has played a fair amount of New South Wales Cup this season. They are what I'd consider to be genuine big boppers. So you do have players like that in the system. There was a start for Lucas Carmine coming out of the Waikato. He played edge forward for the Warriors in this game. I'm not sure who he was the late step-in for. Maybe Connor Bowden, who moved up to New South Wales Cup in the number 22 jersey, and then Lucas Carmine comes into the starting role for the under-21s. We had Rico Lamale, the latest player from South Island and Christchurch, Linwood Jr. He played off the bench, probably giving Tiatia a break at hooker. So there's a few deep cuts there from the under-21s team, and all three teams had a win. 2 wins against the Sea Eagles, unfortunately for Kieran Foran, the Aotearoa legend. 3 losses for the Sea Eagles this weekend, with the Sea Eagles losing to the Dolphins in the NRL, and 2 games against the Warriors at Brookvale. That NRL game was also at Brookie in Sydney. So the Sea Eagles lost all 3 games played at Brookvale Oval, which is crazy. And 2 of them were at the hands of the Warriors. And shout out to the Warriors in the NRL. Good win over the Broncos. There we go. Lots of chit-chat, lots of Warriors stuff there for you. If you do enjoy the coverage, you don't need to do anything, but we do have a Patreon, we do have a Buy Me a Coffee that you can jam to take an extra step in showing your support. Otherwise, being here is always good enough. Onwards and upwards.